Yeah, I like the individuality of the golden era a lot more.
Mm, 100%. So the last big topic I want to talk about is fasting, because that's something unusual that you and I do, like especially for bodybuilders, because enhanced or not, bodybuilders are often afraid of not eating, that they're gonna lose all their muscle and
Mhm.
that. So I have some more specific things, but just give me your take on fasting and kind of tell me your experiences, what you've tried with it, and so on.
Yeah, so I got into it back in the day when um from the Lean Gains blog that was Martin Birkin back in
Mm,
I don't know 2011 maybe somewhere around then. So that
mm,
was your standard 16 hour fast 8 hour eating window.
mm.
And I tried that. It was very hard at first because I was used to eating breakfast, but then you get into it, and after about 2 weeks, it was pretty easy, and you know I liked it a lot because it made dieting a lot easier. That's kind of how it is. Usually, it's hard at first, then you fall in love with the intermittent fasting, and then eventually you just adapt to that eating window, and suddenly it's not making your diet as much easier because you can just easily eat,
Mm.
your whole all your calories for the day, and that short eating window. But I've still used it ever since then. Just whenever I would diet, it still makes it a little bit easier. Um, and then I tried my first multi-day fast. I think it would have been more like 2013 or something like that. Um, yeah, I tried that. I got through like I think I did like 48 hours, but then I was really weak in the gym the next day.
Mm.
Um, so that scared me off of it, and I didn't do it for another like decade. Um, then you're afraid of losing muscle, so I was like, oh no,
Mm.
it's really hard to bench press. I must have lost muscle. It
Mm.
wasn't the case at all. Anyway, got back into it more recently. I forget what got me to start back into it. I think I just wanted to experiment,
Mm.
and I
It
found that it
wasn't
works
me then.
fairly well to do. What's that?
So it wasn't me then. I hope you would say it was me.
Oh no. Yeah. I got back into multi-day fasting like what 2022 or something. I want to say.
Mm.
I don't know why. I actually don't know why I started back, but I can't tell you what the catalyst was for me
You
thinking
know that snake diet guy?
snake diet. No.
Yeah. Okay. Well, he is not as big or trending these days, but he is someone that brought a lot of awareness to fasting. Like his shtick kind of is that he starts his videos by yelling, "Hey, fatty!" And his thing is he's targeting very obese people and trying to help them lose weight. And that's actually the guy that I learned some about fasting from.
Yeah. Well, I haven't seen him. It's funny. I don't actually consume that much media on it. I
Mm,
forget why I got back into it, but I started experimenting with 2 day fasts, and it actually was working fairly well. I could tell I wasn't losing muscle. My performance in the gym was still suffering afterwards at first, but I was kind of not carrying that much anyway at that time. Just I was more focused on mobility training, so I wasn't that focused on lifting big weights, and I stuck with it. I found it easier to compress your calorie deficit into a couple relatively easy days rather than having to consistently eat less for multiple weeks,
mm,
and
I
worked. So I
agree.
kept doing it, and kept doing it just like more. I increased to 3 day fasts the next year. That worked even better, and I started to find that my performance, even while fasted, actually was starting to catch up to my um, unfasted performance, and I certainly wasn't losing any muscle. I was getting lean fairly easily, so I stuck with it. And this year, I kind of started swinging for the fences and did a 6 day fast and then a 5 day fast, and I mean both times I hit multiple rep PRs on
Mm,
I'd work out every day, and I had good gym performance even on the last day of the fast. I hit at the end of the 6 day fast. I hit that 500 pound one hand deadlift for 3 reps. I mean, with a strap, but still a nice little rep PR after not eating for 6 days. And yeah, I mean, both in all those cases, you're losing visible amounts of body fat. clearly no muscle.
Mm,
But yeah, just it's worked really well. It does get harder, I think, the leaner I get. So it might not necessarily be the best approach to get down to like 5% body fat, I don't think. I think at a certain point, it may be harder for the body to, mobilize that much fat that quickly. So maybe
yeah.
the calorie counting, like really, really precise approach is actually necessary for cutting down that low. It's
Mm,
something I suspect maybe,
mm,
but I'm not trying to get down there anyway. So for my like regular person, I just want to have abs. I'm not trying to have like
mm.
striations in my glutes. It
Yeah.
works really well for me, and I can live a normal, easy life. I can eat desserts with my kids and just chill and just not be focused about like I have to weigh everything, measure everything. You know, if I'm busy, I'm stressed, I just don't eat. Whatever, no problem.
Mm,
It's just sustainable for a regular person that isn't trying to weigh and measure everything. I don't get off track on the holidays. I don't get off track on vacation. Just if I need to, you know, fast for some reason. And I've even started doing it when my kids get sick. Um, and I found it's been successful at preventing me from getting colds, even, which is
mm,
interesting. I feel like it boosts the immune system some. Actually, I'm not going
mm,
to go out and tell everybody, hey, if you go fast multi days, you're going to not get sick. But
mm,
just it has worked surprisingly well for me. Maybe maybe I've gotten lucky a number of times, but it
mm,
seems like it's working. I don't know.
mm.
It, it certainly is supposed to work for a lot of illnesses. It's not supposed to work for colds, but it has in my case.
Hmm. Interesting. Yeah, yeah. To my understanding, with fasting and like being sick, it's more bacteria it's supposed to work against more than viruses. But what I heard is that it can strengthen the immune system, but it's supposed not to be more like right now, but more for the future.
Mm,
But I mean, anecdotally, you say that. But one thing I'll say before I talk more about fasting is what I've noticed since I live a much healthier lifestyle overall is that, well, first of all, I don't get sick as often as all at all, but also it's a different thing now. Like there's been many times where I don't even realize that I'm sick until I do. That for instance, just one thing is that I used to always get whatever cold I got. I had intense throat pain. Never get that anymore,
mm,
even when I've been quite sick. And yeah, actually, during the whole lockdowns and all that. There was a time I was in the gym. I was hitting training PRs on a like incline bench. I was just feeling a bit like, a little weird. I was sitting in the sauna in the gym afterwards. I was like, maybe I'm sick. And my dad had these like
mm,
tests, and I actually had like, yeah, well, I had the cove. But it was like, oh, I didn't even. I went to the gym. I could still hit training PRs. Because I know when I used to be sick, I would be weak, really weak. So to me, it's just apart from the fasting, maybe the fasting has helped also, but just living a healthier lifestyle for a long time. You seem to, I get sick less often, and it's
mm.
just not the same thing at all. But one thing I wanted to ask you about fasting is because you talk about doing like rep PRs on the fast and stuff, and my question is just like, what's the purpose of training on the fast to you?
I mean, just because I still live, so I need to. Yeah, I still have my training that I need to accomplish. Mostly, I just don't want to. I still need to train for my goals. And if I'm taking a week off eating, that doesn't mean I have to take a week off training. And
Hmm.
also, I think it's definitely important to signal to the body that the muscle tissue is something that you're using, and that it does
Hmm.
need to be like okay, just because we have maybe a scarcity of resources, hey, this is still really important. You need to keep it. And then
Hmm.
there's the idea that when you break your fast, there's a bunch of anabolic signaling that can help to rebuild stuff. So I want to
Hmm.
make use of that. This is all bro science. I don't know if this is true or
Hmm.
not,
Hmm.
but it makes sense to me to make sure the body knows that it still needs to maintain all this and give it something to do once it has all that growth hormone and all that testosterone after you fast, if that does anything. Additionally, I
Hmm.
just find that my joints are a little bit healthier, so in some cases I feel like I can almost push a little bit harder, especially on like body weight exercises, but to a
Hmm.
certain extent on some lifts actually. during the fast, just because my joints are the inflammation is a little bit lower, so I can actually in some cases get a little bit better training. I feel.
Hmm.
Um, so that's maybe that's just the placebo effect, but I feel like in some cases I can push a little bit harder. I probably wouldn't want to do like a I know for a fact my bench press would probably still suffer because bench press likes body fat, but I feel like for some
Hmm.
lifts that are kind of more joint um, that for me my joints might be a little bit more questionable. They tend to be a little bit healthier. Stuff like
Hmm.
my shoulders and elbows are where I'm struggling the most right now, and with those, I feel like I'm able to push just a little bit harder on my fasted training. Maybe the stuff that's already healthy probably wouldn't do so well. But yeah.
Mm, mm. Okay, interesting. Because we have a slightly different approach to training and the fasting. I get what you're saying about the joints, because for someone that hasn't fasted, like fasting is so anti-inflammatory, and yeah, you feel very like smooth in the body when you get further
Mm.
into a fast. Have you ever went and done the sauna on a fast?
No, no, we don't. That's not. I don't think I've done a sauna ever.
Oh,
It's not
really?
as normal of a thing here.
No, no, I get that, but that you never did it is surprising to me. But there's a lot of synergistic effects from the fasting and sauna, like autophagy, the growth hormone, but the anti-inflammatory effect. So even if you're just a day fasted and you go do a sauna session, it's you. If you do sauna regularly, you're gonna notice that wow, like my joints feel like butter, basically, you know. But so to me, I of course I don't have kids or anything. I can take more time to prioritize training, and I push it so hard almost all the time, you know. So for me, it's kind of like when I fast, I feel like that's when I don't have to train, and to me, it's kind of like
Mm,
gonna do a very long fast. If I train in the middle of that, I'm not gonna get any protein to repair the muscle. So I'm thinking maybe that's when I actually lose muscle if I kind of damage it, but I don't get any building blocks for it. This is of course again speculation, bro science, because there isn't all that much studies that's done on fasting. But one thing, my experience with fasting is that I typically have even deeper into a fast, because I've done many 5 day fasts, and the longest one I did was 7.5 days. And I would say that my strength, like absolute strength, is almost the same, but I gas out way sooner in a workout, usually. But there are some exceptions that you actually made me think of when you said the rep PRs, because there was one time, and I'd say this first, that to me, the experience when fasting, this is my analysis of it, is that in one sense, you're in a sort of energy preservation mode, because the body is like, okay, we're not getting any nutrients from the outside, gotta turn down meat. So when you sit down or something, you quite quickly just feel like almost like a stone. You're sitting there. But what I find is that when all your senses are turned up, though, which I see as a sort of hunter state. I haven't got any food. I got to be
yeah.
sharp, alert still, you know. So kind of that when you do something, the body doesn't know what you're doing, of course. So that's kind of where like, okay, now I give you all this strength. Because once I did, it was on the 7 day fast, actually. It was like on the fifth day. I did 130 kilos squats, like 10 reps. That's like 300 pounds. And at the time, that was quite a lot for me. And I remember thinking that, man, I felt like I could have like done almost like twice as many. And I wonder, is like, is it something like my body is like, okay, we're hunting this prey. We gotta push it, you know. That's a bro
Mm,
science analysis there. But what I typically do is that I do agree with the purpose for training to me on a fast would be this. Again, I've never experienced any muscle loss that I can see, even when I didn't train at all on a fast. But that would be the thing to send that signal that hey, we're using these muscles. So if you can take energy from anywhere else, don't take it from the muscles. So what I usually do, like on the 7 day fast, I went and did like full body training and do like one set of like one set of a press, one set of a pull, one set of a squat or something like that. But no, I would typically try to leave a day of not training and just eating before going into fast. Yeah, got some feedback. I hear myself right now.
whoops. Yeah, my headphones died and my speakers just switched on. Let me try to I may just have to mute myself when here. I'll mute myself when you're.
Yeah, yeah, you can do that. No, but I try to go into a fast, like not completely recovered, but I guess you'd probably have to take several days off. But my typical thing is leave one day of just eating and not training before starting the fast. And then I like to break the fast and train the next day. So I'm fully refed from that. And that's typically how I program, because I program fasting combined with training for clients. And I can tell you my typical routine I do for that is you start a fast on a Sunday evening, and then you fast Monday, Tuesday. You break it on the Wednesday. For some people, I would have them train on the Wednesday too. But then you pretty much, depending on the person, you schedule some training Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. But then again, on Sunday, we don't train. We eat to recover well from the training and going into the fast. Because my experience when I got into fasting was that when I trained really hard and got into a fast, that's when the fast didn't feel so good, because it's kind of like my body's almost asking, like, please, can I get something to recover from this? So, yeah, that's kind of how I do it. But yeah, you agree with me, I guess, that muscle loss with fasting is not really a thing.
Sorry. Yeah, I mean, it can't really be a thing. So, I mean, yeah, I've been practicing fasting as my cutting method for the past 3 years now. And just overall, in terms of body weight, I'm up anywhere between probably 13 to 15, 16 pounds from my 2020 baseline at the same body fat percentage, roughly, just based on how my abs look, because they are, I think, always going to look the same regardless. So either I'm making even better progress and then losing muscle every year, or I'm making, uh, or the fasting isn't causing me to lose muscle. So that, I think, most likely. And even if I'm sure, I mean, you have to break down some tissue during the fast, but I think it probably just gets restored, as soon as you
Yeah,
start eating again, just like your glycogen or anything like that. And yeah, as far as the hunting sense, I agree on that. I notice I can smell a rabbit before I see them when I'm out hiking on a multi-day fast. The thing cool that I found out.
mm,
It's just since the smell is generally heightened. And yeah, I think there's a little bit of a flow state that you get into. I find sometimes I have difficulty remembering what I'm supposed to be doing next. But once I get into, like you said, once I get into some physical exercise, I can push fairly hard, I think.
mm.
Um, I haven't really tried to hit big, like, one max PRs on bigger lifts fasted. I don't know how well I do on that, but I do pretty well on reps. But I think I'm better at reps anyway, just because that's all I usually do. I'm not usually focusing too much on
Hmm.
one rep maxes anyway. I know Tom Haviland has said that he does better at one rep maxes, but like you said, he kind of gasses out on reps. But
He
I mean, for me,
fasts.
kind of that's yeah, that's crazy, right? He, as big as he is and as lean as he is, he fasts multi days. But I mean, then again, he's if anyone really is built different, he's built different. But yeah, yeah, it's in, and I tend to agree with you on the kind of the day after, or the day that you break the fast. The day I break the fast, I think my training is going to suffer too, because at that point your body is just in rest and rebuild mode, and I think it's better not to it's better to let it do its thing on that day. Now I like to have a hard workout before I break the fast, because then I'm still energized and still in that
Sure.
hunting mode. Just like, we have to do what it takes to survive, and you get a good workout to, and but then like you say, I like to let the body, like, once I start eating, I like the body just like have its chance to rebuild. Um, so yeah, I agree on that. So you have a lot of clients do your you have a lot of clients do multi-day fasts.
Yeah, like some people, that's why they come to me, because it's kind of unusual, right? There's a lot of people that have found fasting, and they also were into training and building muscle, and they have somehow noticed, this is possible to combine. But I have had a lot of people that they have worked with some coach, but that's like, no, no, they refuse to let them do fasting. They're completely against it. So yeah, and also one thing I want to ask you about it is because, yeah, well, because I was associated a bit with a snake diet, like honestly, I just used the snake diet to kind of like bring attention to, well, it's fasting. I'm talking about their snake diet, big trendy thing, but so a big talking point from that guy is like about food addiction, which I do think is a thing. But what I noticed, for me, I had many bad habits before, but like food and eating wasn't the worst one. But definitely, I ate a lot of junk food, so I would have some cravings for unhealthy processed foods and that. But what I noticed, because I did when I got into fasting, the first fast I ever tried was 5 days. And then I was gonna do it as like a one-off thing, but I found this snake night guy during the fast, and I was just so curious about trying it. So after that, I just tried many different things. I tried like a month of eating just every other day. I tried doing one meal a day in the morning for a month, just eating everything in the morning. And I tried a dry fast, 3 day dry fast, and look, so I tried many different things is the point. And when I didn't fast, when I just did intermittent fasting, what I noticed was like, well, man, it's like I don't crave anything. That's not because I always planned my fast so much. Like I'm gonna start it like this, I'm gonna break it like this with exactly these good whole foods. And what I noticed was that I don't crave like, first of all these foods taste way better to me now. And I don't crave these other processed foods. And hunger is not that big of an issue at all. It's like, I know I saw you write a post or something about it once that people that are into fasting can more accidentally like just forget to eat or something. That's definitely something that can happen to me now. That sometimes because I am, being a bodybuilder and stuff, you have a sort of an eating schedule that's sort of the same on most days for me at least. But then maybe like, oh, someone wants to see me go do something, so I can't eat, and I get some kind of feeling in my body. I'm like, what is this? What's even going on? And I'm like, I haven't eaten. That's probably what I feel. It's like I've almost dissociated the feeling of being hungry with having to eat. And I've noticed that most people, apart from just being addicted to unhealthy foods, they are way too sensitive to the feeling of being hungry. Because to me, I can actually be hungry and feel like, oh, it would be nice to eat something, but I'm not going to do that right now, and it's not a big deal. Do you have experiences like that also?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, like I it's something I just incorporate into my life, regardless of goals at the moment. Like I just had a family vacation last week, and I incorporated some form of fasting most days, and I was not at all trying to lose weight. I'm actually in more of a bulking phase right now. But I know for
Yeah,
me, if I have a long drive, I'm almost always going to choose to do that fasted, just because
convenient.
I hate being sleepy on the road. There's nothing worse than having to power through a long, boring drive, fighting sleepiness. And if you start eating, I'm not one that can just I'm going to be happy to eat like a little bit. Oh, okay, I had a little tiny snack. Now I'm good. Now I'm going to want to keep eating. So either okay, now I ate a little bit. Now I'm hungry for more, and I'm not getting to eat, or and I have to like use discipline to regulate how little I eat, or I eat something that fills me up and then I get like sleepy and low energy. So I'm always going to choose to drive fasted if I can. And it's I might get and like you say, I barely notice it, but I might get slightly hungry, but it's like it frees you up to use mindfulness to just like pay attention to not just your feelings of hunger, so they don't just like overwhelm everything. Like this is an emergency.
Mm,
I'm scared what happens if I don't eat, but just so okay, so what happens if I give in to that? I'll give in, and then I'm paying attention to how I feel afterwards. And okay, it's like okay, the way I feel 5 minutes after eating everything I want in this circumstance is way worse than just that little bit of hunger that I had previously. And
mm,
you can kind of train yourself with that. It's kind of I mean, it's reward and stimulus and reward. Once you are free from that food addiction, like you talked about, you train yourself to be attentive to those consequences. And you just know from experience, hey, if I eat right now, given the circumstances I'm in, I'm busy, I have to work, I'm driving, etc.
mm,
Okay, the food will taste good this second, but 5 minutes later, I'm going to feel way like I'm going to be feeling something that is objectively less pleasant than this little tiny bit of hunger that I'm feeling right now. but a lot of
Mm,
folks can't. If you're addicted to food, it doesn't come. It's not a possibility for you to say, no, I'm going to ignore my addiction. I'm going to. It'll be better. I'll feel better if I ignore this addiction, because you feel that urgency, right? So like, yeah, I mean, the day I drove, we went to Sequoia National Park. Really cool, giant trees and all. But yeah, I mean, I fasted on the drive over there. I fasted a lot of the days when I was hiking because I don't want to eat, breakfast and then hike uphill or whatever. It's just better to just enjoy life without having to deal with, digesting food. But
mm,
obviously, when you're chilling, relaxing, you want to eat, right? I wasn't restricting myself. I eat, plenty of treats with the kids and all. Uh, Drank plenty of wine and other things. But
mm,
when I'm out trying to explore or drive or something, I don't want to
mm.
be full and stuffed. So it's just
Yes.
something that you naturally incorporate. And a lot of other diet methods you're probably not going to. You're probably not going to eat a super restrictive diet on vacation or when you're busy or what have you. You're definitely not going to put everything into a macro calculator,
Mm,
but you might just naturally choose fasting if you're experienced with it. And
mm,
that's been my experience with like having kids. You have no time. You know, you may not have time to make good food. You may not have time to make good food choices. You're extremely sleep deprived,
mm,
and that makes a lot of people gain weight because they're again addicted to food. So they're just gonna comfort eat and not make good food and just make bad choices. But if you're adapted to fasting, you realize, hey, I barely got any sleep last night. I'm already tired. If I eat a big meal, I'm going to be even more sleepy, but I still have to take care of this kid and I still have to do all this other stuff. I'm just not
mm,
going to eat. So it even makes like the tiredness of not getting any sleep because you have like a newborn, like it turns out from something that would drive 90% of people off the wagon and make them gain weight
mm,
and get out of shape. It's something like, no, I didn't sleep enough last night. If I eat now, I'm going to pass out. I'm just going to not eat, and that it
mm.
becomes it becomes like a plus instead of a minus. So I think I think it's a good tool for everybody to have in the toolbox, but it's especially essential for at least dads. I don't know about. I mean, supposedly fasting is more like ambiguous for women. There's some benefits, but also maybe some negative repercussions for women. I'm not that's what I've heard based on research. I'm not an expert on that, but I think
Mm,
for men becoming fathers, I think it should be something that you're practice with 100%.
mm. Well, first of all, I don't really buy into that thing that it's not good for women. I could see that, okay, be a bit more careful or something, but uh, like the girl I've been in a relationship with, like during this time I've done well fasting. She did a lot of fasting, like way more than me. She was very into dry fasting actually. She loved it and she felt great from it. So that's of course just one anecdote, but that's one individual that I know like did it a lot and really felt like she benefited from it. And I've done it. I've had way less female clients, but I have done it, and with good results with a few too. But yeah, that's the thing. Fasting to me at this point, because now bulking has become, well, it's also because at this point now I'm bigger, I have a higher metabolism, I have to eat more, but it's a bit tedious to even have to eat because I think both, like you say, the way you even feel when you're fed, but also it's just so convenient to not have to eat all the time. Now, what I feel is like I have a good appetite. It's just that I'd rather not have to eat all the time. But for instance, like when I'm in a cutting or a maintenance phase, recording videos, then of course I can always delay eating till later. I kind of always want to be fasted when I record a video because I feel so focused and on. And I have done the mistake sometimes that, okay, I'm going to eat breakfast and go out. I feel inspired. I know exactly what I'm going to talk about. I eat and I'm like, I kind of, I'm not necessarily tired, but I don't even, what was I even going to talk about, and I kind of forget it. So, yeah, and the funny thing is that most people think of it in the opposite way. I think that, oh, I need to eat, so I have energy. But like what you eat, it's really giving you energy later, mainly. Like I will understand if you're someone that's like elite athlete or someone that exercises a lot, that you have to take some carbs here and there. It's a different thing than like eating this big meal. Here in Sweden, there's a big fika culture. Fika is like it's a Swedish word. It's hard to pretty much like to take a break and have like coffee and some pastries, you know. And it's Swedes just love their fika breaks. Like at some workplaces, they will have multiple per day. And I feel like they just get stuck in this, like, I don't know, insulin loop where they kind of need to get their hit all the time. But me, yeah, no, I worked some jobs. Like I was serving food like very early when I started training and doing uncommon sense and that. Just a temporary job serving food at a buffet. I would do because at that time I was doing it was actually during that phase when I did all these experiments with the fasting. I did a weekly 48-hour fast then, and I always did it when I was working there, you know. So I was running around all day, super sharp, feeling all the smells from the food, but I never felt like I lacked energy. I felt very focused and present doing all this, you know. So yeah, and that's I guess I get the reminder talking to you that I should do some videos about that because that's been a mindset thing too. A lot of people think fasting, refraining from eating, that it's this like tough thing to do, but yeah, me and you clearly have found these like no, they're actually for many times that I actually really prefer to not eat.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. The thing is, it's like an investment. It's hard. It is hard on the front end. Like your first one, at least for me, it's going to be very unpleasant at first, but that you know, kind of like if you're investing, you have to give up some of your money at on the front end, right? You're going to have to pay
Mm.
something big on the front end. And that's what stops a lot of people. They don't want to do that, but then you reap the reward of just it just gets so much easier and more pleasant on the back end. And I think no other method of calorie restriction really does that. For most of them, it's kind of like going to a 9 to 5 job. You know, you want to work, you want the benefit, you want the paycheck, you have to go clock in, work your hours, and every time you want to make a paycheck, you have to go in and work. And it's just kind of always going to be the same. You go into your shift, and there you go. But yeah, with fasting, it's going to be harder on the front end, but then it pays off on the back end where it's almost effortless. And that's, I think, a good analogy is investing. You put up with a big loss up front, and then you almost make money effortlessly down the line. And yeah, man, I completely agree on the productivity aspect. I was trying to write my book last year while bulking, and man, it was a
Mhm.
struggle. Like keeping energized and doing all that. It was hard. And then as soon as I switched to cutting, it's like, I was almost done with the book. It kind of exploded to completion once I started cutting because I just wasn't having to eat all the time. And I was, I was committed to building muscle because I'm still, I'm not satisfied, but also just I want to, now that I'm actually moving into this industry and being professional at this, I want to still be an active practitioner. It'd be a lot easier in some ways to just stay lean all year round. You're always
Mm.
looking good for the gram whenever you want to. Yeah, more focused, more productive, not having to worry about eating. But then, I feel like you're not really testing things out for yourself. You're not really even though obviously you're maintaining, you're not really in the game anymore. You're just, and you can get hyped up about this new method, but you may think it feels cool, you may think it's cool, but you're not really putting it to the test, and actively trying to build and get better. And that's something that, is important to me. So I'm not ready to just say, okay, let me just maintain yet. But there's definitely a cost to it in terms of being productive and, learning new things. And it is kind of a struggle. And maybe I should put that on the back burner, but I'm trying to avoid doing that right now. So I'm trying to bulk now while, building up a lot of projects, and it is more of a struggle,
Mm.
100%. But I think yeah, like to me, I don't want to, because there's so many of these guys on social media that you see, they started their account, they look a certain way, it's good, but they're just kind of like, they're that same person, and they just, tell you their little spin on things. And I don't know,
Mm.
like I want to be in the, in the game, so to speak, and
Mm.
having just everything that if I get excited about a new thing, I really want to put it to the test. And that's something I feel like I need to run these experiments. Maybe I don't have the same degree of credentials as a lot of people. Not that all those credentials necessarily mean a lot, but one thing that I can guarantee my clients or anybody who buys a program is I'm gonna do my best to try out everything I'm giving to you, field test it. If there are any problems, I want to run into them first, not you. And that's that's I want to run the experiment. So it's but yeah, it does. Ironically, eating a lot does make that harder. And I think a lot of
Mm.
people start working in a new field and maybe they stress eat. But for me, eating more is definitely definitely makes it harder. But
Mm.
yeah, I want to. I think it'll be worthwhile in the long run.
Mm. Yeah. No, I've noticed because that's the thing. Working with people, food is such a surprisingly big vice for a lot of people. Like for some people, definitely just junk food, but for some people, just eating in general. And I find that it's two main things. It's either stress or sadness for most people. That when some people there was like their go-to when they were little to eat to feel better, and some people that they used to calm down somehow. And it's kind of interesting to see because you can see with some people that they can follow a routine, cutting routine, quite well. But when they get something else in life hits them, that's when they break the break the program, break the routine, and start eating a lot like that. But yeah, I know what you mean. Just maintaining the lean look and stuff for the gram, as you say. But I'm the same. I want to be in the game, and I also want to experiment. And it's a cool thing actually, like this routine with a. Well, I call it like a 60-ish hour fast. You start it Sunday evening and break it earlier on the Wednesday. Like the point is kind of just take 2 days of eating out. But that's the routine I came up with, that when I saw what happened to me with the kind of food addiction thing, I didn't do exactly that, but that's like kind of what I came up with. Like, okay, if I am to do it in a more structured way for someone else, this is probably what I do. And I tried it first myself. I did a cut like that. Only I did every other week because I wanted to cut a little slower that time. But yeah, worked well. And I like to throw in, by the way, when you get, I call it like a hammer fast, that you just hammer in one longer. When you see an opportunity for something, I'm gonna go on a trip, I'm gonna be driving a lot or something like that, you know. No, but I think people. The last thing I'd say about it is in a fed state. When you think about it, like the hunter state versus the fed state. When you're in the hunter state, you're gonna have to. The senses are gonna have to be turned up because on a primal level, you have to be ready to like maybe even hunt the prey, but look for food anyway. But when you're fed, now you're happy. Now you're taken care of. You can just sit there, digest the food. Now you're taken care of. You're not supposed to be out hunting now. So, because I think a lot of people just think of it even backwards like that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think people have this analogy of gas in the car. So, I mean, in to a certain extent, calories in the big picture meta do work like that, but people like take it literally. Like if you want to drive your car, like pretty much every week, or depending on what you drive, you have to just go put gas in the car first, and immediately after that, you just
Mm,
go drive your car at maximum performance. That's how cars work. It's not quite how people work. I mean, you're already fueled up. You have plenty of fuel in your body. You're eating for, like you said, a little bit more long term than like, okay, I want to do something now. Yeah, it'd be like if you have to well, I mean in a lot of in some ways it's almost more like getting your oil changed or doing some sort of maintenance to make sure that your car continues to run well. That's more like what eating I think is, and people need to understand that. I mean, you see that all the time on social media, people saying that you shouldn't diet because your body needs fuel, but it already has fuel in most cases, unless you're exceedingly thin. You already have plenty of fuel, and you're more eating, for future performance, whether that mean to build muscle or just maintain the state you're in, so that you can do something later. But yeah,
mm,
I would tend to agree with that. And it's interesting that you hit on the 68 roughly, and I'm not strict about this either. But yeah, 68 I like. Everyone wants to make it multiples of 24 because that's the day cycle. But
yeah.
yeah, I do the exact same thing. I
Mm,
like to instead of setting it up to where it's exactly 24 hours, I just stop eating at the time I normally would on the last day of my eating. Wake up the next day, don't eat. Wake up the next day, don't eat, and then break it not fairly in the evening, like fairly close to bed, because I know for me, my digestive system definitely needs some time to warm up to eating. I don't necessarily want to be, eating a full day's worth of food. I just want to have a little bit
Mm.
of, bone broth first, a little bit of lean protein, and kind of give that some time to sit, get my digestive system to warm up, and then, wake up the next day, and then I'm good to go. So I found that works. I think we're on the same page with that. We found the same thing to work well. I don't do those multiples of 24 either.
Yeah, yeah. First, I did that because that's all I heard on 24, 48, 72. But I found that then I'm either gonna start it in the evening and break it in the evening, or start it in the morning and then kind of go all day without eating on that day, and I might feel hungry or something, you know. So and also it's actually for the routine with kind of food addiction reversal effect. It's almost not necessarily psychological, but it's kind of like instead of like I'm gonna fast for this amount of hours, it's kind of like no 2 days of eating are just taken out, you know. So it's supposed to. I'm trying to make the person feel as if they're not fasting almost because on the other days they're gonna eat on the day they start the fast. They're gonna eat the way they usually do. On the day when they break the fast, they're gonna eat the way they usually do. Like you say, maybe start a bit smaller, but pretty much, you know, so that when they go through some cycles, weeks of that, now it's gonna be breeze to just go back to doing pretty much the same thing, but not fasting anymore. So yes, but okay, I think we've gotten to all the big major things I wanted to talk about, so I think we're going to round off soon. But since we talked about fasting, maybe just give a little short, tell me a little bit about just your diet philosophy, like kind of oh, I just want to tell you, do you know what I want? That's what I wanted to say. My favorite food to break the fast with is pickled herring, a very Swedish thing, but it's a lean protein and I just naturally I crave pickled things. That's the thing I crave the most when I fast. To me, it kind of makes sense. Something, you know, digestive system getting reset, craving some something for the gut microbiome. You know, so I usually start with a little bit of potatoes and pickled herring and maybe some pickles even. Just start it small. Let that digest for a bit, and then I'm gonna eat more. But yes, please just tell me a little bit about what your diet looks like.
That's really interesting. I haven't tried pickled herring, but I know
Amazing.
Mark Bell says he'll sometimes actually eat like pickles and or some sort of like
Pickles are
food that's
amazing after fast
that's like
food.
zero calorie during his fast, because you're not
Mm.
getting more energy out of them than they break down. It he does that like in the middle of a fast, which sounds to me like it would be hard psychologically to start eating something, even if it technically has no calories. I mean, it's maybe some. I haven't really played around with it, but it's something he
I can
does,
tell you,
which is cool.
just because you
So
brought
maybe
that up, I can tell you that I have actually done that sometimes. To me, I don't know. Um, I think it's do you take salts on the fast? Because sometimes I just felt like I take salts, but it's not the same. Just taking them, just drinking them, you know, like it feels good for a while, but I feel like you mostly just pee it out. It's something when you eat that little pickle, I feel like it sticks to me more, but it's barely any calories. To me, it's not that big of an issue actually to do that because I don't know, psychologically, I think I don't even count it as like real food because it's barely any calories. To actually eat something, I don't know, eat a little sausage or something, that would be difficult and it would be counterintuitive anyway. But yeah, actually done that.
yeah, I haven't tried that. I take usually Element. I like the chocolate one because it feels a little bit more substantial. That feels like kind of a meal. So I do take Element on days when I'm fasting. It gets a lot of criticism for being overpriced, and I mean it totally is.
Hmm.
But and people will tell you, okay, you can just like make your own formula. Yeah, but I can't make it taste like chocolate. So it's just
Hmm.
having to, and if it's all I'm eating for the day, I can afford it.
Hmm.
I actually, speaking of Mark Bell, his supplement company within you has a basically their own version, which is more or less similar, but it's like 30% cheaper. So that's what I usually go with now. But yeah, it's same basic idea. But yeah, I found that helps. I think it probably helps with performance and maybe satiety. But yeah, I haven't tried actually eating anything. That sounds crazy, but
Hmm.
I'm not doubting you, or I just it seems like it would be hard to me. But maybe I'll try it one of these days, maybe on a shorter fast, just to experiment with it. But yeah, as far as my overall diet philosophy, it's like a really loose, unstrict